Hi, welcome
Yes.
back to another edition of Dungeon Master Design and Discussion, where this time we talk less about my stuff and more about other people's stuff.
Yeah.
We're talking about ONE D&D.
Yep.
The most horrific of names, to me anyway. But a lot of stuff that, if you followed the channel for a while, I've been homebrewing.
Yeah.
A lot of similar stuff.
Yeah. Well, and let's be honest, ONE D&D probably won't be the name of the new product. If you remember, the playtest for D&D 5e was D&D Next.
True.
It's just the code word for the playtest.
And I genuinely don't think we're going to get another edition. I.e., it's not going to be 5th edition, or it's not going to be 6th edition. I say that for a few reasons. One, Wizards doesn't want a 6th edition.
And it won't until there's a major regime change.
Two, and this gets to one of the things that I wanted to talk about. What is 5th edition?
Okay.
And yes, there's race information for all the races. There's class information. But how can they make the promise that the products coming out in 2024 will be reverse compatible? And it's because what 5th edition is.
Okay.
And what 5th edition is advantage and disadvantage, and the bounded accuracy of all the math that's in everything. And so long as you don't mess with that, anything that you put out will be compatible with 5th edition, the engine of 5e D&D.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to have a name. I don't think it's going to be 5.5 or... I think it will still be colloquially among the community regarded as 5.5 or 5th edition still. But I think the company itself is just going to call it D&D.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, how does this fit into 5th edition? It's going to be, how does this fit to D&D?
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're going for with ONE D&D. It's just D&D.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest positive feedbacks that 5e has gotten is it feels the most like original or 2nd edition than 4th edition did, it's not bloated and complicated the way 3 was.
Yeah.
It's simple, and it does everything that all the originalists wanted it to do. So I think the design space that they are working in is exciting in terms of the game. I think it is the right direction to go. And I have to say, the document presented to us via D&D Beyond is a much more elegant design than what I tend to come up with. And shows why I am not a professional game designer and they are. I like the simplicity of it. But that's 5e, really.
Yeah.
So.
And I think we're going to see certain things become a bigger part, I think, such as inspiration. I think inspiration was intended to be right there with advantage and disadvantage and bounded accuracy, and it didn't have enough behind it,
and was too
nebulous,
dependent on DM fiat, really.
Yeah.
Your DM has to remember to give it. Players have to remember to use it, because that's the other side of the coin.
Yeah, because you can never have more than one.
And like Jeremy Crawford's stint as the DM for Acquisitions Incorporated is a perfect example of how players ignore inspiration. Because Jeremy's giving it out.
Yeah.
There's a cool moment he gives it out. He's he reminds the players, you have inspiration if you want to use it.
Yeah. And,
yeah.
I mean, that happened quite a bit when Abria ran EXU too.
Yeah.
I mean, they did use it occasionally, but she gave it out a lot more often than they.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Matt almost never gives it out.
Yeah.
And
Brennan either.
Yeah. And his table, the players never use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of the problem is, and this may be addressed, Bardic Inspiration and then the D20 Inspiration. The same name for two different things.
Yeah. Well, that and the other thing is that there are so many other ways to gain advantage.
True. That it can be superfluous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most people, especially optimizers, build to get advantage on what they're going for.
Yes.
Any rogue is building to be able to get advantage for their sneak attack.
Yeah.
Anyone who's crit fishing builds, elven accuracy is a thing for a reason.
Yeah. Do we want to go through the races first, since that's how it's presented in the document?
I know a lot of people are going through the document backwards because the glossary's at the end, but
yeah,
the glossary doesn't give. I mean, there's some new things in the glossary, but I don't know.
I didn't find myself being lost reading through the document without having first consulted the glossary.
Yeah.
It added a bit of clarification, but for the most part, there's not a whole lot of changes in that glossary section to the main sort of underlying mechanics of D&D.
Right. And very few, if any, of the changes in the glossary affect your understanding of the things presented beforehand.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So one of the things that I find interesting is the absolute stated design philosophy of all of the races.
Okay.
Because it seems like in the Player's Handbook, the 2014 Player's Handbook, they tried to go out of their way to make each one different.
Yeah.
The design philosophy behind each one, they seem to really want to make it different.
Yeah. Especially when there's things like this race casts a spell and upcasts it. This race casts a spell and doesn't upcast it.
Yeah. Or the deliberate staying away from spells.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, the rock gnome, it's prestidigitation.
Yeah.
And essentially ritually casting it to make these objects.
Exactly.
Which I thought was a great solution to the problem that is the rock gnome's ability. In the sense of, I don't know, but even now it's still also very wordy for.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. We can discuss that when we get to the rock gnome. I think if we're going to go through, we should.
In order?
In order.
Okay.
And the first thing I want to hit is the little side blurb right before the races start. And that's that there is no more half-elves, there is no more half-orcs, there is no more half species. Basically, you can be half of anything. You can be half elf, half dwarf. You can be half dragonborn, half tiefling. You can be half tiefling, half ardling. You know, and you just pick one of those races, and you get all of your abilities from that race. And then, fluff-wise, you color yourself.
I think that's something that's going away.
I hope so. I hope they do some kind of point system on these things so that you can get like so many points or however they do it. Because there are definitely certain abilities that are not one for other abilities.
True.
And to keep the balance of the races, you've got so many points you can choose from X, Y.
I don't think they'll do that just because they've never done anything like that.
Yeah.
I think what might happen is something akin to what I did in my most recent draft of stuff. I don't know if I mentioned it on the show.
Where you get one of this, this, or this, and one of this, this, or this.
Yes. I went through and redesigned all the players' handbook races to work on the same principle as my keepers and Dogs of Third Earth, where there's a buffet of options as you go through. Those designs are perhaps too many steps.
I was going to say, well, even just the listing that out goes away from the simplicity of the game.
Yes. Yes. And that's why I say I admire the simplicity of this design.
Yeah.
But I think if they say, as a half-elf, you get skilled and this maybe and the racial magic of the elves. You don't get trance. You don't get.
Yeah.
You know.
And honestly, I think the main reason I wish it was like that is because I'm so used to half elves, half orcs being a distinct species.
Mm.
I think in the grand scheme of things, it's fine the way the playtest represents it. I really don't have a problem with it. I've just gone so many decades with them being their own thing that it feels weird for them to not be their own thing.
So I have a verisimilitude problem with the way that that's presented. And that is, presumably, the physicality of the race is how these abilities present. So I have a problem with, you can make your character look whatever mix you want of them, but they have the abilities of one. Like, to me, it's a question of sort of dominant and recessive traits.
Mm.
However you want to look at it. But without, as Spock says, infinite diversity and infinite combinations.
Yeah.
There's no way to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas the design that I did for half-elf and half-orc, there's a plethora of ways that you can combine my human and orc.
Well, I mean, even if they did, this is a dominant special trait, this is a recessive special trait, or not necessarily like that, and then pick one recessive, one dominant.
I could see that happening. I think that's more likely than any points based stuff. But yeah, too many people want to mix the abilities.
Right.
Like having...
But too many people want to take just the powerful stuff and the powerful stuff.
Yes.
Yes, give me the feat and give me the magic.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that one's going to go away. I don't know how they resolve it, and if they can come up with as elegant a solution as everything else is presented here. But I think too many people are going to have a negative feedback on that concept because
we've gotten so long with them being distinct.
Well, not just that, but like if you're going to do like a half dwarf, half elf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you can't mix and match any of the abilities. Whereas if they let you pick and choose, you could have an elf without, say, you have to give up your magic, but you gain the tremor sense and stone cutting.
Well, the stone cutting is the tremor sense.
And I don't know if the crafting one I'd lump in with that too. But you could do that if they allowed you to pick and choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the one that makes the most sense to keep it simple and not necessarily dominant recessive, but they could do primary, secondary. And you can pick one primary, one secondary.
Yeah. Well, and then the secondaries could also be the sub-race stuff.
Well, like the sub-race stuff is the spells, a lot of them that have sub-races. Whereas, like, the humans, the skillful, where you get proficiency in skill, could be the secondary, but the feat would be a primary.
Yeah.
And the resourceful, I'm not sure if that would be, depending on how big a deal they make inspiration, could be a secondary or a primary. So inspiration is now, it's definitely secondary. But if they make it more of a focus thing.
Yeah.
But let's get into that since we're there. Humans are first because we're all humans, so they put us first, even though everything else is in alphabetical order. Big change, humans can now, you get to choose medium or small.
That's been a coming trend in a lot of the designs.
Yeah.
That have been coming out. Being able to choose small or medium.
If you are medium, you're between 4 and 7 feet tall, and if you're small, you're between 2 and 4 feet tall.
I like that they give that range. Just because without it, sort of where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a 30-foot speed, no matter what.
Also a coming trend in a lot of the designs.
Yes. 80-year average lifespan. And then they have 3 abilities.
And this is my favorite part of the redesign for humans, is the humans actually have a thing.
Yep. So I'm going to go through the ones that are known well first, and then we'll touch back on that first one. So skill, you get proficiency in one skill of your choice. Humans are adaptable, they learn quick. Versatile, you get the skilled feat, which is technically 3 more skills, or any first level feat of your choice. So you get a feat. So it's the variant human.
Yep. Which was the most popular choice.
And
to do.
The pluses to your attributes are now lumped in with your background, so there's none of that in races.
Yeah.
But they get resourceful, which you gain inspiration whenever you finish a long rest. Now the thing about that is inspiration, it now qualifies that at the start of a long rest, you lose inspiration if you haven't used it. You can only have one, and it goes away at the start of a long rest. So if a human gets ambushed during a long rest, they don't have inspiration to use. But they get it back as soon as they finish that short rest.
Yeah.
And that is the human.
Yeah, I like that the humans have abilities now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was bad design or lazy, because again, I think the design brief was different back then.
Yeah.
Um,
And that was how many years ago? 2014?
8 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do like that the humans have a
Yeah.
thing now.
I do too. And like we were talking earlier, because you get a feat with your background too, you could end up with skilled feat twice because it's repeatable. 6 plus the 1 for your race, 7 plus the 2 from the background, 9 plus the 4 from rogue is 13 skills out the gate, with 2 of them having expertise.
If you want to build the skill monkey, yeah.
If you want to build the skill monkey, human is the way to go.
Yeah.
Human's the way to go for a lot of things. Humans are, because they basically are getting 2 first level feats.
Yeah.
They get 1 for their race and 1 from their background. And you can just mix and match those feats to make any build you want. Which I like because, like has always been said, humans are the versatile race.
Yeah.
The ones that can be any. And that goes back to the original where humans were the only ones who could do any class.
Yeah.
There were, dwarves couldn't be magic users.
Yeah. And elf wasn't, like you couldn't take any class. Elf was your class.
Yeah. You were an elf.
Yeah.
After human, we have the Ardling, which is a new race. The antithesis of tiefling.
Seemingly, yeah. That's certainly how it's been framed in the document.
Yes.
Upper planar being, and they mixed in a lot of original stuff, but also Egyptian and Hindi.
Yeah. Mythology.
Yeah,
religion.
With animal features.
Yes. Humanoids with animal heads.
Yeah.
Again, they are smaller medium. Chosen. 30-foot speed. 200-year lifespan. They get angelic flight, which is your proficiency bonus times per day. You get spectral wings and you can fly a number of feet equal to your speed. It says, Rose, has a head resembling that of an animal, typically with one with virtuous associations. Depending on the animal, the Ardling might also have soft fur, downy feathers. So it specifies head, but then it says it could have other features.
Yeah. But essentially, you're not getting
claws
horns
or a tail
or... Yeah. The animal / furry species are still going to be their own thing.
Yeah.
I think this is largely cosmetic.
Yes.
Because it gives 3 or 4 different kinds of animals for each type.
4.
And there's no mechanical difference in what you pick.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if I would call that ability flight. It seems more like
it is bonus jump. Action dash, but you're not restricted to land movement.
Yeah.
You can go vertical with it.
Yes. I don't know. I think it would feel more impactful if you had that flight until the end of your next turn.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, as it is, I'm not a big fan of it. And like I asked the question, is that better or worse than the ASMR?
It is a leap. It's straight numbers wise, it's worse. But I like it because it's you have to be more tactical with it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like a grung has a long jump that's equal to their speed.
Yeah.
And a high jump of 15 feet.
Right. But they can't do that as a bonus action that doesn't use up their movement.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, it feels weak in comparison to that too, because the grung can just do that all day.
Yes, but that's their movement. These people can move and do that.
Yeah.
That's why I say it's a bonus action dash without the restriction of land.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. It doesn't feel great to me.
Then you have your type, which is exalted, heavenly, or idyllic.
Which has to do with law, neutrality, and
chaos.
Chaos for good.
Yes.
And they get a suite of spells.
Exalted is the lawful, heavenly is the neutral, idyllic is the chaotic. So exalted suggested animals are cat, eagle, goat, or mule. At first level, you get thaumaturgy. At third level, you get divine favor. And at fifth level, lesser restoration. Now, the two higher level spells can be cast once for free, and then if you have spell slots.
Which again is a design feature that they've been introducing.
Moving away from the once a day and upcasting to you get it and can use spell slots to cast it more often.
And I think,
which we saw starting, I think, in Tasha's.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be going forward.
Yes.
All of it. And I think we will see.
And they even changed the tieflings to match that.
Yeah.
They don't upcast Hellish Rebuke anymore, but they can use spell slots to cast it multiple times.
Yeah.
The heavenly, the suggested animals are elephant, owl, pig, or stork. They get light and then cure wounds and then zone of truth. The idyllic is bear, dog, raven, or toad. They get guidance, healing word, and animal messenger.
I like the mix of spells that they give them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't.
And then all Ardlings are resistant to radiant damage.
Yeah, I don't know if I would choose this over an ASMR, though. To be honest. I guess if my build had a stronger need for those spells, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The Dragonborn, they use Fizzban's damage progression for the breath weapon, but do away with the Fizzban's extra breath weapon.
Yep.
And no gem dragons.
Yep. Or for the chromatics, it was they could, for a period, a couple of times a day, increase their resistance to immunity.
Yeah.
They don't have that anymore. And they're still always medium. So this is one that doesn't get to choose small or medium.
Well, if you want to play a small dragon,
you play a kobold.
Yeah.
And Fizzbin's made it to where they're, or mom,
made it so that they're not suboptimal.
Yep. So you still have the breath weapon, which is always a 15-foot cone, and always triggers a dex save. Because before, like, the green poison triggered a con save. But now they all just still always based on your con modifier. They did take away the part of it being part of your attack action. It's now its own action again.
Oh, I missed that part.
But it's still proficiency bonus times per day rather than once per short rest. Yeah.
I don't mind that change.
Yeah, I don't either. Especially since it scales much better now.
Yeah.
It's basically you get a cantrip, a cone cantrip, based off your dragon. You still get the resistance to your type's damage. You still get the draconic language. This is one of the only races that gets a language based on the... Because now you always get common, you get one language from your background, and you get to choose the language.
Yeah.
So, base 3, Dragonborn get 4 because they automatically get draconic on top of those 3.
So, I've gone back and forth on this in my brain. Because I'm an American. And I know that's the reason why. I'm just going to put it out there.
Okay.
It's because I'm an American, and most Americans only speak one language. Yes, Rose. It barely knows more than one. Yes. But at the same time, I have to think of my European friends. Who most of them speak at least 2.
Yeah. We are one of the few, and the only of the, like, top first world countries that only speak one language as a basis.
Well, like, most high schools in the States do offer a foreign language, but, like...
But even what they offer is basic. It's remedial language, you know?
Yeah. And there's no effort really put in to train to fluency.
No. Or even conversational.
It's... To me, it seems more like a way to introduce us to other cultures.
Yeah.
Which...
is not bad.
Yeah.
You should learn about as many different cultures as you can.
Yes. Well put, Rose. You memorize enough for the test and don't retain anything.
Yep.
Exactly. Because you're not immersed.
Yeah. And there's no need to be unless you're going to move out of the country.
Yes. I mean, I think that's why I retain so many of the fragments of the foreign languages that I know, is because I grew up in England.
Yeah. And I did a lot of traveling around the world in my 30s. Honestly, I pick up languages really quick. I went to Morocco for a few months, and I was speaking Arabic there.
Yeah.
I was having conversations with people in Arabic. I can maybe say half a dozen words in Arabic now. I lose them quickly, too, when I'm not immersed. But I learned very quickly. I can pick up on, one thing I did when I did that was I would always look up a language school that offered a 1 or 2 day course just to teach you the basics.
Huh.
And I would do that when I first got to the country. And then I would just go talk to people and pick it up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I that's why that's why I wanted to joke about it, because but yeah, I think it's interesting. Again, so much of what they've done here, I homebrewed.
Yeah.
Earlier. But with more steps. My origin system is definitely much more clunky than this one.
It shows your Shadowrun and World of Darkness background. Your homebrew stuff.
That's yes, for sure.
Next is the dwarf. Still medium, 4 to 5 feet. They're on the low end of medium, as to be expected. 30 feet, 350 years. They keep dark vision. They're basically hill dwarves. They get advantage to avoid or end the poison condition and resistance to poison damage. They get an extra hit point per level. They get proficiency with 2 of specific tool sets.
I like, because I want to comment on this, because
Okay.
in my origin system, I did away with all racial proficiencies.
Right.
I accept the way they did this.
Okay.
Because it says you're gifted by your creator,
Yes.
by the god of the dwarves to do this thing.
Yes.
And so
Yes. The
my
humans
brain,
are fast learners, dwarves gifted by their creator.
my brain accepts that as
Valid.
a mystical ability. Okay.
Yeah. And then stone cutting is changed. So proficiency times per day as a bonus action. They give themselves 60-foot tremor sense, and which lasts for 10 minutes. The way tremor sense now works, it's not a form of sight, so you're still blinded. You can know roughly where they are and attack that square, but you still have disadvantage on the attack if they're invisible or you're blinded. You have to be in contact with the stone or earthen surface, so you can touch a wall and feel anyone that's touching that wall. You touch the ceiling, feel anyone walking on the floor above you.
Yeah.
You know, assuming it's a short enough ceiling for a dwarf to touch, or they've got a Goliath to pick them up.
Or spider climb.
Something. Yeah. But I like that. Because for so long, stone cutting was something that very rarely came up for a dwarf player.
Yeah.
And now it's got an actual mechanical use, you know?
Yeah. The background, or no, we're not background yet, are we?
No, we've got a few. I'm trying to speed up the...
Yeah.
The elves, pretty much the same. They're still medium, blah, blah, blah. Dark vision. They have advantage on to save or avoid being charmed.
Yeah.
Keen senses, the elven eyes, they have proficiency in perception. Trance, they don't need to sleep. Magic can't put you to sleep and finish a long rest in 4 hours. Now, the interesting thing about that is they took away what they added to trance in Monsters of the Multiverse, which is allowing you to, every time you finish a trance, you can choose a skill, some people's skill and tool to be proficient in. They took that back away. And then you have abilities based on whether you're Drow, High Elf, or Wood Elf. Drow, dark vision increases to 120 feet.
Most of those are in the player's handbook.
Yep. They get, and it's basically the Drow of the High Elf gets 3 spells. Prestidigitation, but at the end of any long rest, you can change it out for any other arcane cantrip, which I like. Detect magic and Misty Step. The Wood Elf goes up to 35 feet. They get Druidcraft, and then Long Strider and Pass Without Trace.
Yeah. No more of the natural camouflage, wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Can I use it? Can I not? Because that's another one that almost never comes up in any meaningful way for a player. But Pass Without Trace, you can cast whenever you want it.
Yes.
And it helps the entire party, not just you.
Yes.
So much better design change, I think.
Yes. The gnome, small, 30 feet, dark vision, advantage on just intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saving throws. Not against magic, just period. And then you get your gnomish lineage, which the forest elf, or the forest gnome is the same. Minor illusion cantrip, speak with animals.
Yeah. Well, it specifies the spell speak with animals here, right?
Yes.
In the player's handbook, it does not.
Yes.
I think this is a better and clearer design.
Well, it was constant, but it had to be a tiny, burrowing animal. This is just speak with animals, number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you can also use spell slots to cast it.
Yeah. Much better change.
So much more frequent usage.
Yeah.
Because it's any animal, and I've got 2 to 6 times that I can use it for free. And if I'm a caster, I can use spell slots to use it more. If I need it more than 2 to 6 times in a day.
Yeah.
Which, let's be honest, probably not more than 2 times in a day. You're probably good with just the 2.
And then, unless you're playing a ranger with an animal companion, and you absolutely must.
Yes, unless you're Vexalia the roll. Then all your ranger slots are just Dr. Trinket.
Yeah.
Rock gnomes get mending and prestidigitation cantrips. In addition, they can cast prestidigitation ritually.
Spend 10 gold pieces and create a thing.
Yes.
I don't like the limitation that you can only have 3 things, and I don't like that it falls apart in 8 hours.
Yes.
You're spending the gold on components, it should last.
Yeah. If you're spending 10 minutes and 10 gold, you should be able to have as many as you want, and they should work forever. You should be able to make a toy for a kid in some town
and not have it fall apart when he goes to bed.
Yes. And like, if I'm running a game and someone wants to play this rock gnome, I'm canceling the rest of that out.
Yeah.
And if you spend 10 gold on an item and 10 minutes, you've made that item.
Yeah. It does what it does. It says on the 10, and that's it.
I mean, that's 10 gold.
Yeah.
That's not nothing.
Yeah.
Especially at the lower levels.
Yes.
Halflings, advantage.
Stout's gone.
Stout's gone. You're pretty.
It's all Lightfoot halfling.
Yep. Yeah, it's exactly the Lightfoot halfling. Orc is straight out of Mom. It's exactly the same as Mom. The Adrenaline Rush, you can take a dash as a bonus action equal to your proficiency bonus, and you gain temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus when you do that.
Yeah.
Dark Vision, powerful build, and relentless endurance. They are orcs out of Mom.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite orc design.
I really like the orc, yeah. And then tieflings. Tieflings can also be small or medium. So tieflings, ardlings, and humans are the ones they can choose.
Yeah.
They get the dark vision. They get thaumaturgy. And then depending on whether they're, like you had the 3 ardlings, you have 3 different types of tieflings. Abyssal, which is the chaotic, chthonic, which is the neutral, and infernal, which is the lawful.
Yeah.
With Abyssal, you get resistance to poison, and the poison spray cantrip, and then at 3rd level, Ray of Sickness, at 5th level, Hold Person. Chthonic, you gain resistance to necrotic, Chill Touch cantrip, False Life, and Ray of Enfeeblement.
Yeah.
And then Infernal is the base player's handbook tiefling with adding Firebolt.
Yeah. So you get 2 cantrips as a tiefling, basically.
Yes.
I like the design choices. It also doesn't preclude the Infernal Legacies from, was it Monsters of the Multiverse?
No, it was Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes.
That's right, Tome of Foes.
Both are Mordenkainen's, but...
Yeah. Where you can get your wing...
Yeah, and
give up your magic for wings.
Well, that, or you could just choose one of those, and it would just take the place of this Abyssal Infernal Chthonic.
Yeah.
If you really wanted one of those, you ignore the stat bonus, because those are gone for races, and you just take that spell level, those spells, in addition to thaumaturgy.
Yeah.
So that is completely backwards compatible. They just now have 10 different sub-races.
Yeah.
They are the wizards of races.
Yeah.
Then we go into backgrounds, which all backgrounds are uniform. And the default, and rather than choose one of these backgrounds or as an optional rule you can make your own, the default is make your own, which
with clear and precise
Yes,
instructions.
If I'm running the game, everything has got to make sense for a background. You can't just pick random shit, throw it together. Yeah. Okay, what background is that? What did you do?
Yeah.
I would require, think of what you did. Okay, what fits that for your background? Not just, I know jeweler's kits, and then I know religion and just add in athletics, and it allows me to speak celestial, and there's just like you could just pick random stuff and they don't.
And I have the savage attacker feat.
Yes, and I have the savage attacker because what background is that?
Yeah.
And they give you some examples, but it's basically a plus. So you can either do 1 by +2 and 1 by +1, or 3 by each +1.
Yeah.
Which I really like that those are now in the background because it's what you did up until then. So those are the attributes you hone to fit into that category.
Makes so much more sense.
You get 2 skills.
Yep.
1 tool proficiency, 1 language, 1 feat, first level feat, and 50 gold worth of equipment.
So beautiful. So, again, the elegance of this design document, of these changes, is beautiful. All the backgrounds now have the same value of here. Everything, it's 2 skills, tool.
1 tool, 1 language, 1 feat.
Features are gone.
Yep.
The nebulous features that may or may not come into play, that will come into play if you have an Outlander in your party, to the annoyance of a DM who wants to do gritty survival.
Well, yeah. And you can still get around it because the guide, which is basically the Outlander, gets Magic Initiate Primal. And one of those spells is Goodberry, so I can find food.
Yeah. So yeah, I like the feat change. I'm sort of ambivalent on the idea of feat trees.
And I don't know that they're going to do feat trees necessarily.
I definitely am. I think
they're doing leveled feats, but that doesn't mean that 1 feat requires another.
No, the
Dragonlance, yeah, it did. Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I guess. And the Strixhaven had that too. Mm-hmm. They had the 1 feat that you had to have the other 2 feats, and 1 had requisite.
Yeah. So
that kind of scares me because that's what started the bloat in 3.5 was feat trees.
Yes, but on the other side of that are players who enjoy that kind of thing, and also,
I mean,
it gives a story in the mechanics.
Yes,
which I appreciate that part of it.
I can see that. Yeah.
So,
like, I'm not against it. I'm just worried that it's going to go too far. To a degree, feat trees are fine. Like, to dig back to 3.5, you should have spring attack to get whirlwind attack.
Yes.
It's learning to walk before you run.
Yeah.
If it's that, that's fine. But when you start getting too crazy with it.
Yeah, well, and like my concern also is 5th edition doesn't have a lot of feats.
Oh God! And please don't bring back the one that gave you your dex modifier and reactions. Please do not bring back that feat. I forget what it was called. But please, God, leave that in 35.
I mean, the Cobalt Soul Monk can buy him with key points.
Yeah. But that's not every turn all the time.
Sure. Fair.
That's gated behind a
resource
that literally every mechanic of your class uses.
Fair.
And not just, oh, you have a +5 on your dex? Here, now you get 6 reactions every fucking turn forever with no expenditure of resources.
Fair. I like the conditions, the clarification and additions.
Yes.
Because I believe that's what's after the backgrounds, right?
Feats is after the backgrounds.
Oh.
Well, languages and then feats. The only thing really about languages is they made it definitely a clearer cut between standard and rare, and when you can take a standard and when you can take a rare.
Yeah.
And they added common sign language.
Yeah.
Feats, there's some changes. Definitely some are going to have to be renamed if it's going to be truly backwards compatible or 100% backwards compatible. Because like now alert does 2 very different things.
Yeah.
And I like that some of them are repeatable.
Yeah.
Which we had homebrewed, and I'm sure a lot of tables did. Like, Magic Initiate now is repeatable, and you just have to choose a different one.
Yeah.
We always played like that, but technically you couldn't. You chose it once, and that was it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I like Savage Attacker now. It's much clearer about if you have great weapon fighting style. Because great weapon...
Or anything that rerolls 1s and 2s.
Yeah. Because there's always a question of what's the order of operations. Do you reroll the 1 or the 2? And then do you then reroll any of those damage dice that you want? Where now you roll 2 damage dice, pick the better one.
Yep.
If one of those comes up a 1 or a 2,
you reroll
that one. And then choose still which the best one. Much clearer, easier.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I really like Tavern Brawler now.
Yeah.
Tavern Brawler ups you to the 1d4 still. It allows you to reroll 1s on your damage dice, so it stacks with Savage Attacker.
Yep.
So if you want the rough and tumble fist fighter, fisticuff without, you take Tavern Brawler and Savage Attacker.
Yep.
Roll 2d4, take the better after rerolling any 1s, and my strength modifier. And I can shove them, which is either shove them 5 feet or knock them prone while I damage them.
Yeah.
It still allows you basically improvised weapons. It says furniture as weapons. If it's small or medium furniture, like a table or a chair, it's a great club. If it's tiny furniture, such as, a desk lamp, then it's a regular club.
Yeah.
But that's tertiary.
Yeah.
Like, it's a great feat if you don't add that in and just leave the damage rerolls, the ability to shove and damage.
It's nice for DMs because it gives them a definite damage code for improvised weapons.
Yes.
It's right there.
Yes, that is nice. But I mean, basically this is basically like the multi-class feats they did in 4th edition, giving you multi-class monk by raising your damage on unarmed attacks, and partial sentinel.
Yeah.
Because, you're leaving? Let me hit you. And now you're knocked prone, so use half your movement to get back up before you continue.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere, buddy.
Yeah.
So, there is no more saving throws, attack rolls, ability checks. It's all just D20 tests.
Well, all 3 of those are D20 tests.
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure why they have felt the need to do this, other than to further, because Jeremy Crawford's always, the game is general and specific beats general.
Yeah.
So they have said D20 tests, and certain abilities affect D20 tests, like Lucky. Certain abilities will affect only attack rolls or only saving throws.
Right.
So
I think what they did is they did it because there's now automatic failure and automatic success.
That too.
Which rolling a 1 on any D20 test is an automatic failure, even if your modifiers would make it succeed. So even if you're a rogue and it counts as a 10, it's still a 1. It automatically fails. You rolled a 1, regardless of any other modifiers.
I think reliable talent beats that. I still think it gets around that. Because reliable talent affects the outcome of the roll. It says you can't roll less than a 10. Or you treat it as if you had rolled a 10.
Okay.
So, unless they change reliable talent.
And then rolling a 20 automatically succeeds, which I don't like. I do like the natural 1 always failing. Like, there should be a chance of failure.
Well, as I often point out, I think they are mislabeled as success tests because really what you're testing for is failure.
Yeah. Like, if there's no chance of failure, you shouldn't require a roll.
Yeah. Likewise, if there's no chance of success, you shouldn't ask for one either.
Yes. However, I made the argument earlier, someone wants to try and jump a mile across a river, technically by this, they get a 20, there's a 5% chance that they can do that. I say, let them roll to see how far they get and how gracefully they plunge into the middle of the river. But no, they are not going to make it all the way across the mile-long wide river.
Yeah. And I mean, realistically, these two rules in particular are already at play at many tables across the world.
Yes. That's how you get the bard seducing everything and anything memes.
The show that we cover, Matt has played by that rule. When they roll a 1, he doesn't ask them what the total is.
Yeah.
When they roll a 20, he never asks what the total is. Well, almost, that's not true. Sometimes he does.
Yes, sometimes he does. And, I mean, he does reward the natural 20 and giving them extra information.
Yeah.
Then he would have whatever the roll, then getting that number without the natural 20, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with, hey, you got a natural 20. Let me give you a little bit extra information.
Yeah.
Let me put a cherry on top of that little ability,
Yeah, when he already knows the DC is over 20, he will ask them for the total.
Yeah.
But the players certainly don't think that way. They think if they roll a 20, they automatically succeed.
Yeah.
And this one, that rule seems to indicate if your DC is 30 and they roll a natural 20, they succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if it's not possible, don't ask for a roll.
Yep. And it emphasizes that,
Yeah.
Because if you go with these as the rules and you let them roll, you have to be okay with them
succeeding
or failing.
Yeah.
On a minimum of 5% chance of either.
Yeah.
Another thing that hugely changed was unarmed strikes. So.
Oh yeah, that you can choose.
You can choose to either damage them, which is 1 plus your strength modifier is the default. Grapple them, which they're now grappled, and they have an escape DC of 8 plus your strength mod plus your proficiency bonus.
I like it. I like that not every grapple being an opposed check.
Yes.
I do like that change.
And it is only possible if they're one size larger than you or smaller.
Yeah.
So the halfling can't grapple the ancient dragon.
Yeah. I like the movable subcondition of grappled, that you can be moved.
Yes.
And how much, and the person doing the grappling has the slowed condition.
Yes.
Which has its own things.
Yes.
I like that grappled says you have disadvantage on all attacks except against the person who's attacking you.
Who's grappled you, yes.
I like that. The slowed condition giving you disadvantage on dex saves and everyone else having advantage to attack you, I also like.
Yes. Especially with things like the slow spell.
Yeah. Well, and also suddenly it's like, does the rogue try to take out the person that you're dragging, finishing them off,
or the person that's dragging you?
Because the rogue is gonna get sneak attack on both, on either one. So I like that change.
Yeah. Or you can shove them, which is push them 5 feet away, or knock them prone. And then again, Tavern Brawler can do both the shove and the damage combined as one ability. So monks definitely want to take Tavern Brawler, unless the monk class allows them to do that as well. Another thing, so like all gaming sets now cost just 1 gold. All artisans tools now cost 15 gold. All musical instruments now cost 20 gold.
So I know why they did it. It just breaks verisimilitude for me.
Whether it's castanets or an accordion, it costs 20 gold.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in the sense of during your background, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that because that levels the playing field.
I think, And like, I think we will see that because, I mean, and I don't think they're taking into account like maracas or castanets. Because how many people, other than our group, do you think really choose those as their musical instruments? It's always the flute or the lyre or...
Yeah. Well, I mean, even that, like a flute and a lyre or a lute, there's significant material and labor differences in the construction of those 2 instruments, or those 3 instruments. The economy falls apart if they're all the same value. But I get it for the purpose of balance and calculating everybody's starting gear. You just say that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they will reflect that in the purchasing stuff later, like in the gear section of this new player's handbook. And this is only in the background section. For your background, everything costs this.
Yeah.
And then in the equipment section, it costs this because this is what it is on the actual economy. This is your background monetary value is amorphous and,
Yeah. The other thing is interrupting a long rest. So now any combat, even if it's just 1 round, interrupts the rest. Makes it no good.
Oh, wow.
As well as 1 hour of walking, casting spells, or similar activity. The rest will continue. Now, if the rest was at least an hour before those things occurred, then they get the benefits of a short rest from it. But you have to start your long rest all over from square one if there's even 1 round of combat. If you roll initiative, you've got to reset your long rest to 0.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Most tables house rule their own rest mechanics anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. That may or may not survive. just because Rose is right, it's punishing both for the DM and the players. The DM can't use, or they can still, I guess, but the use of that late night attack is made worse.
Yeah, a lot worse.
And if you get, say, 7 hours and they get you just before dawn, does that mean that's it? You got another 8 hours?
Yep.
I don't know.
I mean, the way it's written, yes. If they attack you 7.5 hours into your 8-hour rest, you now have to rest 8 more hours.
Yeah.
Unless you're an elf. Because then you did it in 4 and fuck the rest of the party. Everyone play elves.
We do get a bit of return to 4th edition with this by having Arcane, Primal, and
Divine.
Then Divine. So I like that. I think that will make things a little interesting. I'm reserving judgment on the whole process, though, because we don't know how the classes are going to interact.
Yeah.
And Crawford has said they will interact in their own ways.
So at the beginning of the spell list, it says there are now 3 main spell lists in the game: Arcane, Divine, and Primal. In future Unearthed Arcana articles, we'll show how classes use these lists and how a class or subclass might gain spells from another list. The lists here go through 1st level to support some of the races and feats in this document. The list currently only includes spells from the 2014 Player's Handbook.
Yeah.
So like a sorcerer might get some of the divine or primal spells, depending on their class, subclass,
So yeah. I am ambivalent about the VTT that they're going to be launching. I knew that they were going to buy D&D Beyond,
right,
to have the digital platform. To me,
I'm just hoping that the new books give you a code, at least for a discount on the purchase of the.
My understanding that is going to be the case.
Good. Because honestly, that is the biggest thing that's kept me from doing D&D Beyond.
Yeah. Well, and the thing,
I bought the books. I bought so many books before D&D Beyond became a thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to pay full price for those books again.
Yeah. And also, Wizards doesn't want to kneecap their local retailers.
Yeah.
And if they don't do that, local retailers are going to be out the sale.
Even if they raise the price of the books $10 and give me the D&D Beyond version for free because I bought the book, I'm okay with that. If they raise it $5-10 and give me the book for free on D&D Beyond, I'll gladly do that.
Yeah.
If they, but I'm big on the physical copy. And I think it's my age showing. Like, I'm fully capable of navigating the online, but I like the feel of a book in my hand. Maybe that's because I'm 46 and I grew up way before the internet was a thing. But
I'm conflicted. I like the ease and speed with which you can find things digitally.
Honestly, I can find things in the printed books almost as fast, if not sometimes as fast or faster than some people some of the people at our table looking up the stuff.
Yeah, and especially once
familiarized yourself,
yeah, I can tell you the page number on a lot of stuff, and that was before I put tabs in the book. But the alterations that I've been making to my books for the last 3 or 4 years now, because before I didn't want to. I don't know why, but it never occurred to me that, hey, these are my books. I can write in these.
I mean, since we've had books as a species, we've written notes in the margins, so why the hell not?
Exactly. But, and I mean, in a PDF, you can make your own notes too, but I don't know.
For me, it's more just the feel of a book in my hand and knowing I can flip to this. I like that.
Yeah.
I have nothing against the online stuff. I can use them. I'm good with them. I just prefer the physical copy in my hands. I prefer to look like a huge fucking nerd and have 3 books open at the different pages and, rather than just 3 tabs that I'm flipping back and forth between. There's just something about that appeals to me.
I mean, how else are we going to get our exercise in if we're not going to carry books and minis?
Exactly. That's my weight training. Lifting those 2 bags of books I bring every week because I'm the DM.
Yeah, Rose, I've never graduated to digital tools for sheets and notes. For that, I still prefer my handwritten stuff. Although I have been tempted by the Remarkable tablet ever since one of our players told me of it and showed me, and now Facebook won't leave me alone with the ads. But yeah. So I think because so much of what's in this document is stuff that I've been designing and playing with in that design space for a couple years now, I do not suffer the reaction that so many people have been having.
I'm on board with 99% of the changes.
Yeah.
There's a few that I question, would like clarification on, but we've got a year and a half of more articles coming out that will explain some of these things. There's no need to have the knee-jerk reaction that's going on. This is the first play test of a year to a year. He said a year plus, so a year and a half probably, because I'm expecting mid to late. I'm either expecting summer of 2024 or holiday season of 2024. Because if we have a year plus of the play test, they have to document all those surveys, print the final copy, put it out. So I'm thinking it's going to be like a gifts, it's going to be October, November, December is what my gut says. Maybe as early as the summer if they do like now to the end of the year plus all of 2023. The first few months of 2024 is them putting it all together and putting it,
Yeah, Rose, I think it's going to be summer is going to be the first release, the initial release.
Yeah, like that's the earliest it will be.
And they may do special holiday ones, but I think
we'll see the initial release in summer and the gift box in the holiday.
Yeah. Which means they have to have it signed, sealed, and delivered.
March?
At the latest.
Yeah, February, March.
Q4 of 23.
Which means January is the last survey. So December of 2023, put it out. January 1st, open up the survey.
Yeah.
Mid-January, compile the data, make the decisions, compile it, send it to the printers.
Yeah. It all depends on their process for text and then layout design.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of that, I don't know what that flow is.
If they do that, that's just under a year and a half. So it's a year plus of playtest. If they're doing it monthly. They didn't. Yeah. They said it would be a regular frequency, and it's going to be a year plus.
My guess, well,
I think it'll either be monthly or every other month. I think September. We know September 1st the survey for this drops. I think mid-September we'll see the next one. The first the survey drops, mid to late, the next one. That's what I'd like to see. It may be a little more spread out than that, but that's what I would like to see.
I have a feeling it would be quarterly. Unless they're going to release 3 classes at a time.
I was going to say, they're going to do fewer classes at a time because those PDFs are going to be fucking huge. I mean, they could just do to 5th level on each of the classes because it's playtest. That's what they did with D&D Next. The classes that they released only went to 5th level.
And then they'll do the second. Yeah, I could see that.
So.
Fair. Well, we are long in this episode.
Yes. Thank you for
sometimes,
bearing with us.
Sometimes these do. Because it's an off week. And, you know.
And there was a lot of information to cover.
Yeah. But I think we're going to call it there, guys. Have a good night. Take care of yourselves and each other. And we'll see you next week where we will talk about Campaign 3, Episode
32.
Bye, guys.